I have witnessed the fall of empires, but none fell like this. For over 1,000 years, this city was the most powerful fortress on earth. Its walls had survived 23 sieges. Armies of Arabs, Persians, Vikings, and Crusaders had all tried, and all had failed. But on the morning of May 29th, 1453, a 21-year-old sultan stood before those same walls with the largest cannon ever built, and 80,000 men ready to die for a single dream. This is the story of how Constantinople fell, and the Roman Empire finally ended. By 1453, Constantinople was a shadow of its former glory. Once home to 500,000 people, fewer than 50,000 remained. Entire neighborhoods stood empty. Churches echoed with nothing but pigeons. The city that once controlled an empire stretching from Spain to Syria now governed little more than the land inside its own walls. The imperial treasury was so empty that Emperor Constantine XI could not even pay his own soldiers. But those walls, the legendary Theodosian Walls, built 1,000 years earlier, remained standing. 60 feet of layered stone, a deep moat, and towers every 150 feet. No army in history had ever breached them from the outside. The people of Constantinople believed God himself protected their city. They had a prophecy: as long as the walls stood, the empire would survive. Sultan Mehmed II was not your typical conqueror. He spoke 6 languages, studied philosophy, and had been obsessed with conquering Constantinople since he was 13 years old. At 21, he was dismissed by European courts as a boy playing at war. They were wrong. Mehmed's first move was pure strategic genius. He built a massive fortress called Rumeli Hisari on the narrowest point of the Bosphorus, cutting Constantinople off from Black Sea trade. Any ship that tried to pass was destroyed by his cannons. Then came his secret weapon. A Hungarian engineer named Orban had first offered his services to Emperor Constantine. But Constantinople was too broke to pay him, so Orban walked across enemy lines and offered the Sultan a cannon that could shatter the walls of Babylon itself. Mehmed said yes. The cannon took 3 months to build. It was 27 feet long, fired stone balls weighing half a ton, and needed 60 oxen and 400 men just to drag it to Constantinople. Constantinople had one more trick up its sleeve. Across the mouth of the Golden Horn, the city's vital harbor, the Byzantines stretched a massive iron chain. Each link weighed hundreds of pounds. No ship could pass. Behind this chain sat the Byzantine navy, small but deadly. Ottoman ships that approached were pelted with Greek fire, a mysterious incendiary weapon whose recipe has been lost to history. Mehmed threw his fleet at the chain. His ships were repelled, burning. The defenders cheered from the walls. For a moment, it seemed the prophecy might hold true. But Mehmed had a plan so audacious, so insane, that the defenders never saw it coming. On the night of April 22nd, something impossible happened. Under cover of darkness, Mehmed ordered his men to drag 70 warships out of the water and haul them overland across the hills behind the Genoese colony of Galata, using greased wooden logs as rollers. Imagine it. Thousands of soldiers pulling full-sized warships up a hillside in complete silence by torchlight. The ships slid over greased logs, one by one, through the night. By dawn, the people of Constantinople woke to find 70 Ottoman warships floating calmly inside their protected harbor. Behind the chain, behind their defenses. The shock was devastating. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Golden Horn was no longer safe. The defenders now had to split their already tiny army to cover an entirely new front. For 53 days, Mehmed's cannons hammered the Theodosian Walls. the great Orban cannon fired 7 times a day. Each blast shook the ground for miles. Chunks of ancient stone exploded into dust. But every night, the defenders performed a miracle. Women, children, priests, and soldiers worked through the darkness, filling the gaps with barrels, earth, wooden beams, anything they could find. By morning, the wall was whole again. The Ottoman army launched wave after wave of attacks. Professional Janissary soldiers. Irregular troops promised loot and glory. Underground tunnels designed to collapse the walls from below. The Byzantines countered everyone. A Genoese soldier named Giovanni Giustiniani led the defense. He was the medieval equivalent of a special forces commander, and he held the line at the most dangerous section of the wall for weeks. But time was running out. The defenders were exhausted. There were 7,000 of them against 80,000. They could not keep this up forever. On the evening of May 28th, Emperor Constantine XI attended his final service at the Hagia Sophia, the greatest church in Christendom. Orthodox and Catholic Christians prayed together for the first and last time. Constantine then rode along the walls, speaking to his soldiers. According to witnesses, he told them they were defending not just a city, but the last fragment of Rome itself. Across the walls, Mehmed addressed his own army. He promised them 3 days of plunder. The wealth of Constantinople, 1,000 years of accumulated treasure, would be theirs. That night, the Ottoman camp fell silent. 80,000 torches were extinguished. The darkness was total. Inside the walls, the people of Constantinople knew tomorrow would decide everything. The final assault began at 1:30 in the morning. Mehmed sent his least experienced troops first, wave after wave, to exhaust the defenders before committing his elite Janissaries. For 4 hours, the Byzantines held. Giustiniani fought like a man possessed at the critical breach, but then fate intervened. A stray shot struck Giustiniani in the chest. He was carried from the walls, bleeding heavily. With their best commander gone, panic rippled through the defense. And then came the moment that changed history. A small group of Ottoman soldiers discovered a postern gate, the Karakoporta, that someone had left unlocked. They poured through. Ottoman banners appeared on the inner wall. The cry went up. Constantinople was falling. Emperor Constantine XI did what any last Roman emperor would do. He stripped off his imperial insignia so his body could never be identified and used as a trophy. Then he drew his sword and charged into the oncoming wave of Ottoman soldiers. His body was never found. By midday, it was over. After 1,123 years, Constantinople was no longer the capital of the Roman Empire. It was now Istanbul, capital of the Ottoman Empire. Sultan Mehmed rode through the shattered gates and went straight to the Hagia Sophia. He walked among its towering golden mosaics and declared it a mosque. Then he looked out over his new capital and wept, not from joy, but from the enormity of what had happened. The fall of Constantinople sent shockwaves across the world. Greek scholars fled west, carrying ancient manuscripts that helped spark the Renaissance. Trade routes shifted. New empires rose. The walls that had protected civilization for 1,000 years had finally fallen. Not because they were weak, but because a 21-year-old sultan had dragged ships over mountains and built the largest cannon the world had ever seen. Some endings are also beginnings. If this video made you see history differently, subscribe and hit the bell.